Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abbey, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abbey, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abbey,
Dear Abbey,
Dear Abbey.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abbey podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Abbey. I hope you're having a great day, or good morning, good evening, and good night. Name the movie, The Truman Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for turning on my podcast, for scrolling to it, or however you watch. Thank you so much. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Abby. I'm the host of this podcast, and we talk about pretty much everything, but I mostly focus on emotional and mental wellness, well-being. I'm not a professional. I'm just a girl that's struggled her whole life mentally and come out on the other side, still struggles daily and has things that will never go away maybe, but I am at peace with that and I've accepted that. So I kind of just talk about living life with mental struggles, and I think it can be an isolating experience. So I started this podcast to talk about all those little hidden battles and different things that we experience in life. And yeah, literally everything and anything we talk about. If you've been around for a while, welcome back. Thank you for listening to another episode. That's a great sign, and I'm really grateful that you decided to listen to another one. Okay, enough of the mushy stuff. Let's get into why we're here today. Today we are talking about being burnt out and the experience of doing a lot, trying to get a million things done at the same time, and having a hard time slowing down. And also, I think that goes hand in hand with not being very patient with life, with yourself, with learning, whatever it is. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because I think a lot of people that are creative, I think everyone is creative. There's some people who their hobbies are doing something creative, or maybe their work is doing something creative. And it can be exhausting if you feel like you're expending so much creative energy and so many ideas that eventually you feel really burnt out and frustrated because maybe you have ideas, but you can't execute on it, or, whatever it is, it can feel frustrating. So I'm talking about that a little bit, as well as just anything that we struggle with, that we do day to day, and also just the general feeling of being burnt out and feeling like I can't get it all done, but you want to. And that in between, that gap, where that gap is of I want to do this, but I'm not able to, like the dealing with the frustrating feelings that come with that. And also, I think just generally being a little bit kinder and more patient with ourselves, not listening to that type of voice that's like, I have to do and be this certain thing, but just learning to be in the moment with ourselves and to kind of open yourself up to maybe a new mindset when it comes to your creativity or your work, or, whatever that you feel burnt out from. Really, the main focus of this, I think, will turn into just slowing down and taking things one step at a time. And it's just a reminder, because I think we all know this and have been taught this, and maybe we've heard it before, is to the whole idea of slowing down and taking it, baby steps. But we need a reminder, because life gets busy and we have a lot of, I don't know if not necessarily ambition, we just have a lot of stuff that we want to do. You want to do stuff, you want to create stuff, you want to be something, you want to do something. But every once in a while, when you feel burnt out or like you got nothing left, that's a good place to self-reflect and think of maybe it's time to let some things go, and it might not be things that you want to do, but it might just be the overall feeling of feeling like you have to do everything and that it needs to be now. So anyways, that's what we're going to talk about today. Maybe that sounded all over the place. It makes sense in my head. So I will try to eloquently express what I'm thinking later on. But first, let's get into the dubs and L's, and then we'll go into the details, and then we'll get to the meat of the day's episode, and then we'll go into a Dear Abbey, which I didn't do a Dear Abbey last week because I didn't think I had one, but I found one. So I apologize for that. I'm going to do the L first, just to get out of the way. My L for this week was that I have been, every time I come out of some sort of depression, like depressive episode, I have to be really, really intentional about about being kind to myself and reminding myself that it is a real thing that I struggle with. I'm not making it up. I'm not doing it for attention. No one even knows. I mean, and I talk about it on here, but this is my safe space. But like, I don't tell everybody. I tell the people that I trust that are near and dear to me. I think when you're diagnosed with a mental illness and you've struggled for so long and you have experienced that illness for so long, but not knowing that it was an illness or that it was something that was actually like kind of broken a little bit, that was not functioning correctly in your brain or with your hormones or whatever it is, you feel very validated. And also, I think a part of you the really bully, the really critical part can then come back in and say like, well, that was a bad diagnosis. How do you know that that's true? How can they prove it? Like they just had a couple interviews with you and now they are telling you you're this. What if they're wrong? Just a lot of skeptical, cynical, like nothing's true then type of mindset. And that can be really damaging and really frustrating. And with my bipolar 2 diagnosis, I felt validated at first, and then I felt like I was lying about it, like I was being dramatic, and it's like, oh, it's not that bad. But then obviously through therapy and like medication and seeing how much that worked, I was like, okay, no, it's comforting and also frustrating when you know that you do actually experience something, and that the comforting part is that it's not all your fault. Like there's something that's happening that you can't really control directly. Like you can do different lifestyle changes that can indirectly and kind of directly affect it, but it's not something that is like inherently wrong with you, the person who's experienced the mental illness. Anyways, long story short, I was coming out of a depressive episode the past week and I feel better. Like the grass is green, the sky is blue, and those are really the main two things. That sounds like it's symbolic of something, but I genuinely feel like when I am in a depression like that, nothing has color. It's like nothing has color, and when I look at it, I don't see color, even though I see color. It doesn't I don't know if that makes sense, but nothing has flavor or taste. It's just like, it's almost like I'm walking through a storybook that's just black and white, and the story's just like I'm watching everybody. When I'm looking at my life, it's like I'm watching through a storybook that's not painted, that's not colored. It is rather grim. And I'm not going to talk about like my medication or anything like that. I've talked about it before, but it's just like everyone's different and what everyone wants to do and how everyone experiences recovery or medication or whatever is different. And so I don't feel comfortable ever sharing what you should and shouldn't do with certain diagnoses, because I don't know everybody and what you're experiencing and what will help and what will not help. So do I think I'm handling this the best way? I don't know, maybe not, but I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm trying to make the right decisions when it comes to my mental health, and I'm doing pretty good. But when I come out of this, slump, I feel like there was time wasted, that I like was awake, but I wasn't fully conscious. I feel like there's time wasted, and it can boil up to a frustration, but I refuse to, what I've learned, I've refused to like dwell on that, to dwell on the frustrating part, because that's not to dwell on the like, why do I have this? Like, I don't like to dwell on that anymore. It's never, ever in my whole life ever been helpful to do that. Instead, I try to unconditionally accept my body, my brain, what I have, what I've been given in this life, and make the most of it. And if my condition changes, great. If it doesn't, great. Like, I'm going to make the most of it. I will sit with the feeling for a little bit, and then I'm going to let it go. Like, I'm going to sit with that feeling of maybe self-doubt, self-loathing, some kind of frustrating annoyance, like self-annoyance. I don't know what the word is. But then I refuse to dwell. So I just sit with it, and then I got to let it go, because I don't want to bring that moving forward when I'm out of like that headspace. So now let's move on to the dub. My dub for this week is I've spent so much time making little miniature like little D&D terrain pieces. I made a whole dungeon that's supposed to be like an old, kind of a mansion-y vibe, but it's like an old temple ruined thing. And underground, there was like this really nice place that people use to meet, have meetings, whatever. And it has like black and white tile. So I made all this like tile. I made it look kind of broken and old and whatever. And I made it all out of cardboard. And I just had a lot of fun with that. A couple weeks ago, like a month or two ago, I made for my D&D party, like this table. They were at like not a fair. What is it called? Like a marketplace. They were like fighting in a market. So I got like I made these like little cardboard stands where I put a bunch of bread that I had like from this foam clay. I made like bread, like there's a bread stand. And then I made a little water fountain in the middle out of styrofoam. And then what else? I made like a wagon that someone had goods in, and just, I'm learning a lot about myself that I become incredibly obsessed with a random crafty thing, random craft, and then it's like becomes all I think about and all I want to do, which is fun. But sometimes I gotta like pull it back a little bit because I can't get good at everything, which honestly is kind of what we're talking about a little bit today. Like things take time, and I got to be more patient with getting better at stuff. But I also, the greatest step of all is I had a vision in my head to make. Okay, and if you're my D&D party, I don't think anyone listens, but don't listen to the next like 2 minutes or something. But they're going into a fight that will be against certain creatures. I'm scared someone's still listening, so I'm not going to say, even though they probably already know. And it's going to be in this underground situation, in this fallen temple type situation, okay? Just nerd out with me here for a second. Give me a second, please. I'll get to the point of the episode. And there's a part where they're going to, hopefully, well, yeah, I'll make sure they do, but they are going to be walking through this little dungeon crawl type of situation. This is their first like dungeon crawl. I love dungeon crawls. Like I really do, which is basically, for those that don't know, you are usually underground, not necessarily have to be underground, but you're usually in like some kind of you're not in like a free open area. You're in kind of closed quarters, and you're trying to get from A to B, and you have to go through all these little tunnels and twists and turns and hallways and whatever, wherever you are. You have to go, and you basically, in each room, there could be someone you meet, like a random NPC character, which is a non-player character, NPC. There could be a little animal. There could be some loot where you can get a cool sword. There can be some information that helps you along your journey. There can be bad guys that you have to fight. That's basically what it is. So like each room, you just kind of discover new things in each room. 99% of the time there is a fight, and that's fun. It's a fun part of it. So they usually try to investigate stuff. Like they'll try to look for stuff and try to find goodies. One of the rooms is going to have be like a planning type room, where they have like a bookkeeping room where they have maps and scrolls and old stories of stuff and books. One of those places are going to have a map, and that map was created by somebody that one of the players know, like in the game, in their background. It's someone very important to them, and they made the map. So they're going to find this map, and he's going to see that the initials, that like the way that it was signed or created, it matches the handwriting of, this person that was close to him. So I'm excited for that moment because that's always fun. And I made a physical map, and they've been wanting a map, and I've been making it. Like I made it from scratch, like a full on map, used a pen, put freaking tea on it, a tea bag. I freaking tea bagged it. Like I put tea on it, and I put, to make it look old. And then you like cook it and you bake it for a little bit. You bake it a little bit, and it looks burnt and cool and old. And I'm really excited to show them that because I want the reaction, because I love the reaction. I love seeing them be like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Because I remember that feeling when I was playing, just like seeing something. You're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like you get to nerd out. Anyways, I know. Let me talk about it. So I'm going to give that to them when they find it. But I thought it would be so cute. I made like little desks out of really thin wood. I don't think it's balsa wood, but I heard that balsa wood is better for that because it's really, really thin wood, and it's really easy to cut, which I need. But I just bought these really nice crafting scissors that are super thick and that don't hurt my wrist, because my wrist started to hurt after cutting so many pieces of cardboard. It's actually kind of hard to cut cardboard because you have to like maneuver your hand different ways. Anyways, made these little wooden desks and this wooden shelf, and I'm going to make a couple more because it was actually easier than I thought it was going to be, because it actually looked better than I thought, because I tried to make one out of cardboard and it was really bad, but then now I use a really thin one and it looks a lot better. So I made the little shelf, and in the on the shelf, it has a miniature version of the map. No one is going to notice this detail. And on top of that shelf, there's a bunch of old little papers that I cut out. I like painted those a little bit like brownish, yellowish, so they look like old parchment. And they're kind of scattered on this little desk and they're glued on there. So it just looks so yummy. And I'm going to post a YouTube video soon showing what it looks like. It's so freaking cute and I cannot wait. But I know they're not going to care about it as much as I do, but I care about it and that's fine. And so on there, one of the parchments is a folded up piece of paper that has a little compass on it. And that paper and the little miniature, tiny, like 2 centimeters, like 1 centimeter, 1 by 2 centimeter paper is like, has the tiniest little thing that looks exactly, that matches the big version of the map. So when they find it, they'll see the little version, and then I'll give them the big version, and then I'll give them the big version. And again, they will not notice that detail, but I will. And I made like another little desk and like this potion that spilled over and it has all this green goo that I put hot glue on. Anyways, I'm not going to go. Anyways, all in all, having a ton of fun doing that. I could see myself getting way, way more into making crafts and I want to do that as a career. I want to switch careers and just make crafts. I had fun with that. My back hurts, my neck hurts, and it didn't turn out great, but I'm happy with the fact that I got it done. I completed something, which feels good. Okay, that was really long. In the details, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding up a book. I've talked about this book before, but it's The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Okay, it's by Charlie. I don't know how to say the last name. I should have looked it up, but it's Charlie McKessie. Kessie. My sister got me this book. She went, I don't know, where they went somewhere in they went somewhere like maybe Northern California, and they went to a thrift store and this like cute little vintage store, and she bought me this book. She knows I love this book and the short film, and it's like I will treasure this book for the rest of my life. Because it's really thoughtful that my sister, she's so good at getting gifts for people. And I think she just she's very good at seeing people and knowing what they would really enjoy. And she makes you feel very seen. She's a really good gift giver. Like I look up to her gift giving, and I try to be like that more, because I could be, sometimes I'm not very good at that. If you've never read this book or seen the little short film, I think it's on YouTube, or maybe, I don't know, it's on something. This book specifically, it has the artwork is so beautiful, and it's just done perfectly. There's something really refreshing and calming about this book, the artwork, just the way it's written. It's just like a really fun, whimsical, but grounded story. I don't know if that makes sense. But what I love most about the book, and this isn't an ad for the book at all, but what I love most about the book is it's like all about these like morals and these lessons of these 4 characters that learn stuff and get to know each other. And I think he even talks about it in like the preface, is when you read something or you watch something, I feel like reading, I get more emotionally attached to characters. But you can always find a little bit of yourself in characters. And usually those are the ones that you relate to, that you kind of have a bias and you like a little bit more, because you see yourselves in them. And I think this is one of those books where you can kind of see yourself in all of the 4 characters. The horse is very humble and kind of grounded, very aware of others. The mole is kind of just silly, fun, loves sweet treats, and is also very wise and brave, but he's small. He's small and brave. And I think we all kind of feel like that in life, is you feel so small in this big world, but you are brave and you feel brave and you have courage to do stuff being in this big world. Then there is the boy who has a childlike wonder, who is discovering and learning about himself, learning about how others work, is curious and is full of wonder, and also a little bit scared of the unknown. And I think they all kind of are a little bit, and then you have the fox, and I just love foxes. I just think they're one of the cutest animals. But also the fox in the story, I think, is just so adorable. He kind of gets in his own way sometimes and has some of that self-doubt, but I think he's also very brave. This is like one of my favorite things. I think at this part I started to sob because I felt so seen and so weirdly understood with this line. As somebody that feels like often in social interactions, I don't really know what to say. And I feel like I don't really have anything to say. And this is like one of my favorite parts of the book. Just everything there's something about the fox that I feel like the closest to. The fox never really speaks, whispered the boy. No, and it's lovely he is with us, said the horse. To be honest, I often feel I have nothing interesting to say, said the fox. Being honest is always interesting, said the horse. There's something that felt so calming. It was like soothing a wound. It was like balming a wound when I heard that line. So great book. Just wanted to call that out. That was us going into the details of great pieces of work, great pieces of artwork. Let's get into the meat of today's episode. Today we are going to talk about being burnt out. I think I'm going to start with just talking about if you're somebody that likes to do a bunch of hobbies, someone that likes to create, you're a creative person. You have a bunch of ideas and you want to do a bunch of things and you love a lot of different things and it's kind of hard to choose. So you kind of do everything all the time, all at once. And it's fun. You get to try out new things, but maybe sometimes we get into a place where we enjoy it so much, but then we start to only do that. And then maybe we do it for a job. And so now we're getting paid to do something that, we love to do. But then now you're having to do it all the time. People are expecting things of you at a certain time, especially in a creative world when people are expecting you to do stuff all the time. It can feel really exhausting. And you can get to a point where if there's deadlines, if there are people waiting on you, if you just put pressure on yourself, if it's not even coming from external pressure, but if you feel pressure kind of building up saying like, you need to get this done faster, you should be better at this point. Why isn't this done? Why haven't you finished this project? And just have this, and it can sometimes turn into a really overwhelming state of mind and overwhelming experience of now creating isn't a way to express and it isn't a way to live. It's now just this really frustrating experience that now you dread. There's a feeling of dread that comes over you when you think of your creative passions, your creative endeavors, because that could be from a lot of different types of things. So I started with creativity because I think that's what I more relate to, but it can be something just with work. Like maybe you are being asked to do so much at work, or maybe you have a bunch of children and your husband works a lot. And so now you're at home and you love being a mom, you love what you do. But sometimes we feel this overwhelm of you need to do more, you need to be better. And we feel like this dread of, oh my gosh, I feel like I can't live up to either my own expectations or this external voice or this expectation that was kind of put on me. And so you feel belittled and you feel like you want to just crumple up because you can't live up to it. So it can be anything, but the experience I think is the same for everyone when you feel that burnout or that dread that comes with doing something that you actually really love and that you once loved, but now is hard to do and it's hard to get yourself to do it. Something that when I've experienced this myself, I've come to learn a couple of things. So I wanted to start with what can make us feel that pressure. Like, where does that pressure come from? Is it good? Is it bad? What is happening? Why do we feel this pressure? Like, what voice? Like, what's happening? And to just maybe understand ourselves more or to understand where it's coming from. And I think that can also help kind of push you to some kind of resolution to that dread feeling in some type of way to let it go, to ease the burden that we've kind of put on our own shoulders or someone's put on us. I think one of the reasons we may feel that dread and the pressure is we are really aware of where we would like to be and where we are now. That can create a lot of internal frustration. Like that's where frustration can kick in, where you can't meet this expectation. The expectation mostly is unmeetable because we're putting ourselves in a future that doesn't exist yet. And also, and then we're comparing ourselves to it. Sometimes people find this helpful. Like if you're someone that's like likes to visualize and can think of yourself in the future and you have that expectation and it doesn't make you feel less than, then that will work for you. But if sometimes we have this expectation and we are comparing ourselves to that person now as like a way to make ourselves feel bad, and that's not helpful, and that's going to just push us further and further into the dirt and make us way less motivated and way less happy and excited to do the things that we want to do. Because if you're comparing yourself to this future state that doesn't necessarily exist yet, comparison is the thief of joy, as a million people have said. I don't know who the first person who said that is, but even if you're comparing yourself to some future you that doesn't exist yet, like one thing I think of for me personally is, things probably come to your mind maybe that you experience this with. For me, it's just sketching and drawing. I always compare, like I have so many projects that I want to do and I have these images in my head of things that I want to create, but my skills don't match what I want to create yet. And that's so frustrating to me. And when I focus on that, I'm so miserable when I draw and I sketch, because I'm not, and then I'm mentally in a place that's not actually learning. I'm mentally stuck in a loop of, I should have started this sooner. Everyone else is so much better than me. I've talked a little bit about this before, but it's just a not helpful mental loop that I get stuck in. So I try to switch that mindset into like, I don't want to compare to a future self. I am how I am now, and I'm proud of how far I've come. And I'm going to take this moment and be in the moment while I'm sketching, even if it's for 30 minutes a day. And I will get better because I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to be present in this moment and try to understand in this moment what is being taught to me or what I'm sketching. How can I understand the angles of this better and not compare it to this future thing that doesn't exist that I should have been at this point. And I say that in quotations because I don't like shoulding on myself. I think it just creates a layer of shame and embarrassment or something that doesn't need to be there. It's not helpful. I'm a big fan of being helpful now for my mental state. I take that very seriously. What is helpful? What is not helpful? I'm going to discard things that aren't helpful because I don't want to go where that leads me. It's not helpful. That what no longer serves you is what they would say in yoga. That can be one area, is just like the comparison could be to other people or just to like some future self. I don't know if this future self makes sense for everyone, but I think just comparison in general can feel like there's a pressure, an extra weight on your chest, burden on your shoulders, a weight to carry that doesn't need to be there. I think another reason we can feel dread is we think we need to do it all at once and it needs to be fast. We live in a world where you could be on your phone or on the computer on YouTube and you see so many videos, even if you don't click on them or watch them, just the amount of stuff and videos and stimulation that's immediately put on a screen is already kind of overwhelming to the brain. It can feel overwhelming almost immediately, especially if you're watching things that regard to what you want to do. You probably have a lot of things that are suggesting like-minded people or people in videos that already maybe have mastered something you're trying to master. Or so when you see a bunch of those videos, immediately you feel like, oh, I'm already so not a part of this. Like there's already this whole thing that's happening and I'm not a part of it already. Like I'm behind. That creates a feeling of being behind in some way, that whatever you're doing, you're already behind. And I never see how that could be a helpful mindset. And also, behind what? Like if you really break it down, what are you behind? One thing I think to help and with this dread is to remind yourself to slow down. Things feel busy online. Like if you don't go online or you don't go on the internet, you don't go online, and you take a moment to be by yourself and just watch the wind blow the trees, how it moves slow. Like the earth is really not in a rush. And as hippie as it sounds, and I very much believe it, like we're all connected and we're connected to the earth. So I think it's good to mimic the earth. Like how does it move? How does it flow? Sometimes there's storms, but sometimes things are just slow. And you look out and it's just like a blue sky and trees. And there's really a lot of peace and simplicity in that I think you can use to ground yourself if you're feeling like the hustle and bustle and busyness. nature is just one of those things that if you need to go outside and paint outside just to hear the quietness, to hear the wind, to hear the birds, to hear the flow of water, to hear nature, I think it helps soothes us and it helps slow us down. So if you're having a hard time slowing down, going outside and doing something outside and creating or, whatever, or working outside can be so incredibly helpful. Just get into a new environment. And that can help spark a different mindset, which is what I want to move to next. Our brains are so busy. I think most people have a busy brain, but some people have really, really busy brains. And if you're anxious and you have a lot of worry, your brain is very, very hyper aware of all the different things that could possibly go wrong. And it makes you feel like it's definitely going to happen and that this is what you should focus on. So add that on top of everything else you actually want to do and think about and figure out. It's hard to compartmentalize and to actually mentally focus on things that will be more beneficial and more helpful to what you want to do in this life. I used to just kind of go with my anxiety and let it be my guide. I thought my OCD was a lot more powerful and a lot smarter than it actually is. So I let it be the guide for 20 something years of my life, and it was miserable and it did not bring me anything. So I think when it comes to mentally taking a break, that can be so hard because our brains are like, they're monkey brains. They're so do this, do this, do this. Okay, now let's think about this. Okay, now let's think about this. Because I go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. It's just a constant, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Okay, now you need to do this. Okay, you need to get better at this. Okay, you should be at this level. Okay, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's how it can feel in your brain, just constantly all day. So how can you relax if that is what your brain sounds like all the time? Great question. Sometimes I struggle with that still, but there are so many tools that can help you quiet the monkey brain. And if not quiet completely, because I don't know how often that really happens. Sometimes it does for me, honestly. Most of the time, I think it's more about learning that you don't have to listen to it, that you don't have to live your life so fast because life is so meaningful and it's so short. Like, really. When what an amazing miracle it is to be alive, and that takes some time to get to that point sometimes when you feel depressed, but also how short it is. And so if you have a feeling that you want to break free from this like busyness, then do it. Like nothing is stopping you. You can just not listen to your OCD anymore. You don't have to listen to your depression anymore. You don't have to listen to these really cynical, negative voices. Because they're probably really not from you. It's probably from people maybe in your past or people who have chosen to be cynical and negative and you got them all gunked up in your head. And that can be why your brain feels so busy and so icky. Like, because you feel bogged down by these really negative, cynical beliefs and thoughts. And also just the busyness of that you should be somewhere that you're not, or that you need to be better at this or this. And it's not in a hopeful, like, I want to be better. I'm excited to be a better daughter. I'm excited to be a better writer. I'm excited to be a better employee. I'm excited to be a better worker. Like, that's not the feeling I'm talking about. I'm talking about this feeling of never being enough or good enough, or never being like okay to slow down. Slowing down, I think, can scare people because they might hear slowing down as quitting what you want to do, or not doing, or becoming lazy or procrastinating. Like, slowing down does not equal those things. Let's keep those separate. Slowing down, really, I think you could be more effective because now you're not overcomplicating things. You're not adding a million things onto your schedule. Instead, you're just going to focus on this and get good at this one thing. Because if you're painting something or if you're writing something and you are not in the moment focusing and trying to connect the dots on what you're immediately writing, but instead you're thinking, oh, I should have already done this, and oh, I should have done that, and I need to do this after this, and also I need to go make sure that this, you're not it's going to be hard to get into a flow state when you're creating if you have all these to-do lists in your head. And so it might take longer to get out an idea. It might take longer to get something out. So slowing down could be like, for me, what's really helpful is, again, going outside and meditation. Like meditation for me is extremely helpful because you don't quiet the monkey brain, but you realize you realize that you are not your monkey brain and that you don't have to constantly give in to all the demands, basically like turn this on. No, you need more stimulation. You need more dopamine. Go look at this, go do this, go figure this out. It's like, oh my gosh, wait, I can actually just like not listen to you I can actually turn the volume down. You can still be doing your thing, but I'm going to turn the volume down and focus on the sounds of the planes going overhead or whatever it is. And then you can create some distance between you and that busy brain. So that way, when you are next time you're sitting down to write, you have the mental capacity and the mental space to focus on what you're actually doing. And it's going to be better if you do that versus if you're worrying, if you don't take any steps to create that space between you and your monkey brain and to realize you don't have to do everything it's saying. If you get stuck doing everything that your monkey brain is telling you to do, you're going to feel overwhelmed and burnt out and all over the place. So the point is to simplify. Simplify. Instead of trying to do everything all at once, take it step by step by step, because that's actually doable. Going back to what I said in the beginning, when you have this expectation that's above human, that's perfect, that gets things done really fast, efficiently, perfectly the first time, never has any frustrating moments of can't figure something out or I don't understand this. Like when we compare ourselves unfairly and have these crazy expectations that hurt us rather than help us, goals and intentions are good. Too big of expectations for ourselves, I think, can hinder our learning. When we have these unfair expectations for ourselves or we compare ourselves, we set ourselves up for failure. So you never feel like, okay, I did something good. It's always like, oh, still wasn't enough. Like I think our brain kind of tricks us into thinking that we're doing more than we are when we are constantly receiving some type of stimulation or dopamine, something. And I think when we compare ourselves, we get a hit of dopamine and then it goes away and then we feel worse about ourselves. That's my theory. I don't have any science at all to back that up. That's totally just my theory because it feels good to look at people who are really good at something you do, but then a couple minutes later you feel depressed. You feel sad and you feel like you can't ever accomplish anything good ever. So big fan of step by step by step. And that kind of leads me into the last thing that I wanted to talk about that might help with this dread and this burnout is if you're learning something new, especially figure out how you learn and be so patient with yourself. So let's break that down. The first part, figure out how you learn, is so important and has always been something that is so detrimental to me, is so detrimental to, I have two teachers as parents. Both my parents are teachers. And I've heard them talk about this, how kids just learn differently. Each kid is so different and the way that they learn is different. So I think a good teacher is able to kind of add different environments within the same environment for learning, if that makes sense. Like they show things in different ways. They speak about things in different ways. That way, every kid in the class, to some degree, sometimes they do have, like special needs that might need to go to another class because they learn differently. And there is nothing, and I'm saying this to my little kid self, there's nothing wrong with learning differently and maybe learning more slow. I'm a very slow learner. It takes me a long time to learn something and I have to be I have to hear it a lot and then I have to do it multiple times and then I eventually understand and it clicks for me and then I know it for life and then I understand every aspect of it. I think it's when you have a really busy brain, it's hard to focus. Like I think it's just hard to focus for me too. So that makes it harder to learn. So when you learn about yourself and how you learn, then we won't feel as frustrated and burnt out because maybe we're trying to learn something in a really not helpful way to ourselves because maybe you need hands-on and you're doing only looking. Maybe you need to have someone break things down for you. Instead, you're just trying to figure it out by yourself. Maybe you need structure, but what you're doing right now has no structure. You're not in school. You're not taking any type of class or, structure to your learning. Maybe you do better without structure. Maybe you do really good just figuring it out on your own. So if you find yourself not getting better at something or not improving at all, then maybe take a look at how you're learning and maybe switch that. Maybe try to take a class, maybe drop out of class. I don't know. Like, try different things and understand yourself. So just because you're not learning something really fast or picking it up doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it, and that that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it and that it's not for you. It might just mean that you need to be taught differently and that you might process it and learn a different way. And that is how it should be. That is okay. That's what makes you you. That's why you understand things in a different way than somebody else might understand something. Everyone is different. I also think that just can help with maybe shame or embarrassment or feeling that frustrated feeling of I'm not getting better. Because sometimes it can really affect us when we're not getting better at something. And when we've done things a million times and we're like, I still don't get it, it can be really frustrating. So that is really important. And I think it can help you not beat yourself up so much if you're not improving on something. So going back to slowing down, I think patience is a virtue that is so important to being like genuinely happy in this life, for me at least. Patience is a virtue. I've heard that a million times. I understand why it is. I understand why it's a really important thing to learn how to be patient with others, with yourself, with life, with the pace, your pacing. And especially in speaking of learning, how to be patient with yourself when you're learning, how that virtue is so vital, I think, to becoming great at something, because you can be patient, but also push yourself. And I think you have more grit within you when you have patience for yourself. And there's more love versus hard. There's more like softness and love versus like hardening and frustration and anger. I think that can directly affect the way that you are able to open up and learn new things and what you have mentally and emotionally going on and your capacity to learn and understand new things. So this is the last thing I'll say on this, and then we'll do our Dear Abbey. If you feel in a slump and maybe you're creative and you can't think of anything else, you don't really have any more ideas, you're burnt out. That doesn't equal you being burnt out, doesn't equal you needing to quit everything, and doesn't equal that you don't love it anymore. And also, if you're in a creative slump, it doesn't mean that you're not creative, and doesn't mean that you're not cut out for this. Everybody gets in a slump. So take care of yourself, be so patient and so kind and so gentle with yourself, and push yourself. Get good at the frustration tolerance. But when it gets to a point where you're burnt out and you feel depressed, or, whatever the next thing is, that then becomes unhelpful and you're not enjoying things anymore, then take that seriously and really self-reflect. Okay, let's do a Dear Abbey and then we will end today's episode. Let's get into this is our Dear Abbey. Dear Abbey, I changed your Hi Abbey to Dear Abbey. Sorry. Dear Abbey, I'm needing advice. This has been something weighing on me the past 3 years, and I'll try to make it as concise as I can, but I want to give you context, which I appreciate. I do like context. It's very helpful. I don't mind that it's long. I have been questioning my marriage for essentially the whole time my husband and I have been married. We are high school sweethearts and dated for almost 9 years before we got married. We broke up a few times during our dating period, but leading up to our engagement, everything was amazing. I was so in love. Everything was amazing. Extremely eager to get engaged and married. Once we got engaged, I started feeling off about things, but I chalked it up to nerves and stress about the wedding. We got into some unusual fights and I started seeing a therapist about it, but we moved forward with the wedding since previously I felt so confident and ready to marry him. Our first 2 years of marriage were extremely rough. We got into some horrible arguments where I felt belittled and controlled by him in a way I never experienced before. He would scream and curse at me and get extremely angry, punching the wall, ripping his shirt, once through a chair, not at me. He would apologize and have true remorse, but it seemed like he was gripped by this anger and scary outbursts. He started going to individual therapy and marriage therapy, and he was truly willing to work on everything and get help. We are Christian and our faith is extremely important to us and is a big reason why I've been trying to make the marriage work. Over the past year or so, he has made strides in getting better, having more control over his emotions, and even started a medication for some of his OCD behavior that would trigger him micromanaging me. I felt he has done so much to make things work as well and truly loves and cares for me. But I have struggled with my feelings for him and attraction to him our entire marriage. I really have no desire to kiss him or be intimate, and I honestly don't want to pick up his calls when he's away at work or look forward to seeing him come home. I feel guilty because he has changed so much and put in so much work, but my feelings really haven't gotten better towards him. He doesn't understand it because to him, he has put in all of his work and has gotten better for the most part, but I am now the one not putting effort into the relationship and not doing enough to show my love for him. We literally just bought a house because things were going better for a few months, but I am having some major crash outs lately, feeling so off about things. I don't know what to do, and if I'm just overanalyzing the relationship and freaking out too much, or if my gut is telling me I shouldn't be with him. He wants to have kids so badly, and I do too, but I do not feel good about having kids with him at the moment feeling like this. We are still in therapy and seeking help, but we are about to hit our 3-year anniversary, and I'm feeling so off about things. What do I do? I'm so scared of making the wrong decision and regretting things either way, but I do feel so stuck in this in-between place with my feelings. First and foremost, before I say anything, give any advice, and I know you know this already, but I feel like I have to say it because this is a very big, I don't take these questions lightly for me. So I really want to be helpful and give you, encourage your autonomy as a person to make the best decision for you and your future kids and your family and, what you really, I want you to trust yourself first and foremost. And also I'm not a therapist. I'm not a professional anyway. So if you don't like what I say, let it go in one ear out the other. I'm not going to give the perfect advice on this. Again, my biggest thing I think while reading this is I feel like as someone who's experienced similar things, you have autonomy. I want you to feel like you can trust yourself. And that could be either way. Like if you want to push through and try to break the walls, have the walls come back down. That could be for any decision that you make. But first, I want you to, I think, trusting yourself and getting to a place where you can practice your autonomy as a person, separate from whoever your husband is, separate from any relationship. If you're Christian, your relationship with God is first and foremost. And he prioritizes your heart more than anything else. So this just sounds really hard. I'm sorry you are experiencing this. And you go to a therapist, so I'm not saying anything new here, I'm sure. But I think one of the main parts in a relationship is learning to love, learning to receive love, and also learning to love yourself and finding joy and happiness in that relationship. It's so hard because it's such a place that only you can go to and figure out what you want to do. So I think my advice would just be, it would be so hard to get back to a place of safety within a relationship when someone has lashed out like that on you. You're not being unchristian. It's not wrong to have hesitations when somebody has not controlled themselves in front of you before like that, and they have lashed out and they have put you in a situation where you felt unsafe, because the one person that you want to make you feel more safe than anyone else is your spouse and your husband as a woman. If you're married to a man, you want that man to make you feel like you're protected and safe. That's one of our needs as a woman. So I never want you to feel like to belittle your feelings or to feel like you're asking too much for wanting that. And I know you mentioned that he's put in a lot of work and he's, gone on medication and he's done a lot. That's amazing. And that's his journey. But sometimes I know that once someone crosses a line with you, sometimes it's really hard to get back. It might not ever get back. And it's really hard to get back to a place of trust. So I think the reason you're not attracted is because I think one of our main things that get us attracted to a man is confidence, safety, love. and we feel close to them because they love us and they make us feel good and protected. So I'm not saying that to say that it can never come back at all. I'm so not a professional in this. I'm just saying that so you don't feel like you have to hide your feelings or that you have wrong feelings about your experience. Just be really honest in therapy. Be really honest to him about where you're at. If you're really questioning the marriage, like you're really, really, really struggling, then I think communicating that is a good thing, because even if it kind of breaks things down, then you can rebuild it and it'll be like a different relationship. Because I think when you have gone through kind of toxic parts of a relationship and you hold on to that and you never kind of break it down to rebuild it, then you're just in that, and you're never going to feel, and you don't feel safe, and you don't feel happy, and you don't feel attracted, and you'd feel like not close to that person at all. For a protective reason, your brain is protecting you for a reason, but it's not something that I can give enough advice on. I think it's just that is your decision, and there's not a right and a wrong decision. I want you to know that your opinion matters, your heart matters, and his recovery is separate to your happiness, I guess. The last thing you said is probably what I'll give the most advice on, is you don't want to make the wrong decision. That is a huge decision. So that's scary. Thinking of a divorce or thinking of a marriage not being forever, and that's just you get married and you're like, this is going to be forever. And I feel so weird when I talk about a divorce, because it's so not like a Christian thing to do. It's looked maybe wrong in Christian eyes and looked down on, which there's so many different nuances to that, but your happiness matters in a relationship. I don't think there really is a wrong decision, because people can give their opinions. I can say, you should leave, you should stay. Yours is the only one that matters in this. Just be really honest with yourself and with your husband about where you're at, and your therapist. And if you guys are in therapy, be really, really honest and try not to hide from things and sweep things under the rug, because I think that's where the truth is as I say, the truth will set you free. And I think in these types of situations, it really does, because you have to be so truthful about where you're at and where your heart is, and what is working, what's not working, what you're I might not be able to get this back, then so be it. That's your choice. And it's not a failure, because sometimes it's hard to get back to a place if something's already happened. And that's just the consequences of people's actions. Don't worry about the wrong decision. Just be honest with yourself and know that whatever you choose, whatever happens, however this plays out, it's all going to work out for your good, whatever happens. Also, the last thing I'll say, just not necessarily in regards to this, I think just in general, but just as someone that struggles mentally, and especially with OCD, I never want to excuse the hurt that I have caused somebody else because of what I was not able to control, what I was not willing to face in myself. OCD is a lot of facing things and taking things head on and not running and managing and self-control, taking responsibility for my own actions, for my own life. And so just because I have a mental disorder, and if I treat someone poorly, or if someone else treats someone poorly and they have a mental disorder and they struggle mentally, it's never an excuse, and it doesn't disregard the feelings of the person that they hurt while they were struggling. I feel like I can say that because I know what it's like to be on the end of struggling so badly with your mental health. But also, I take responsibility for the things that I caused in other people, or things that I did that were selfish, or whatever. But just because somebody is struggling mentally doesn't excuse behavior. And I think if you excuse someone's behavior over and over again, they don't feel like they need to change at all. But anyways, that's just my 2 cents on that. Just because I don't want you to feel less Christian or something if you hold somebody accountable in that way. I think you're probably a really empathetic, compassionate person. And with that, I think sometimes we can over apologize for people over and over again until now our feelings don't matter at all, when they do. And your feelings do matter. And it's good to speak up for yourself, and your feeling and your opinion on the relationship matters. You're half of the relationship, So anyways, okay. Well, thank you for writing in. That was a very honest question and scared me a little bit at first, because it's just a very serious thing and felt very close to me in my past and my, and some things that I had gone through. So I hope that I was able to help in any way, give you clarity or know where to look for clarity or whatever. But you got this, and it's all going to be okay, no matter what happens. Either way, that's going to be it for today's episode, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Dear Abbey. If you want to support the podcast, that would be awesome. I really appreciate it. Any comment, rating really helps boost my podcast. And if you want to so please subscribe, comment on YouTube, or you can leave a rating and a review on Apple or Spotify podcasts, as well as if you want to go above and beyond, you can share my podcast on your story. You can go to Spotify, hit share, just post it on your story so other people see. Share it with people that you think would enjoy my podcast, and share it to people you think might enjoy this type of a podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful weekend. Take yourself out, have fun, be kind to yourself, and love you guys. Bye. 우회전 taking a ride to Todayyy 눈치 보면서 들어가 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람